The bitter first. Taste. Ethan Reyes wiped the sweat from his brow as he arranged the last of his chicken adobo on the serving platter. The bustling kitchen of Seaside Heights Resort was nothing like his small family restaurant in the city, but the temporary gig paid twice what he normally made in a week. Money he desperately needed for his 7-year-old son's upcoming school year. What is that smell? A crisp voice cut through the kitchen chatter. Ethan looked up to see a woman in impeccable chef whites, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, examining his dish with narrowed eyes. The executive chef badge on her uniform read, Olivia Bennett. Filipino chicken adobo, Chef Bennett, Ethan replied, straightening his posture. Traditional family recipe. Olivia picked up a fork, lifting a piece of chicken before setting it back down without tasting. This is for the Harrison wedding reception? The 3-star Michelin experience they paid for? The staff meal, actually. For the server's dinner break, Ethan clarified, feeling heat rise to his cheeks. Thank goodness. She set down the fork with a small clatter. The vinegar aroma alone would overwhelm the palate before the first course. Olivia glanced at his temporary badge. Mr. Reyes, we're serving a 6-course tasting menu tonight featuring compressed watermelon spheres and lavender-infused foam. Not home cooking. The kitchen staff had fallen silent, everyone suddenly finding something to focus on besides the unfolding scene. I understand, Ethan said quietly. The staff meal wasn't on the menu plan, so I prepared something I thought they might enjoy. Admirable intention, misplaced execution. Olivia adjusted her chef's coat. For future reference, even our staff meals reflect Seaside standards. Tomorrow, check with sous chef Rodriguez for appropriate options. With that, she turned on her heel, calling out instructions about the Wagyu medallions for the 3rd course. Ethan took a deep breath, letting the sting of the interaction fade. He'd worked under demanding chefs before, though few as dismissive as Olivia Bennett. A text notification lit up his phone, a photo from the babysitter showing his son Miguel giving a thumbs up with his completed homework. That single image renewed his resolve. 2 weeks of this gig, then back to his restaurant where he could pick up Miguel from school every day. He could endure a few cutting remarks for that. Later that evening, as the wedding reception reached its crescendo, Ethan was cleaning his station when he noticed Olivia return to the kitchen alone. The other chefs were either outside smoking or helping with final service. She moved to where his adobo sat, now cold and partially served. Thinking she was going to dispose of it, Ethan turned away, not wanting to watch, but instead, after glancing around to ensure she was unobserved, Olivia took a small piece, tasting it quickly. Her expression shifted, surprise followed by something harder to read. She took another bite, then quickly replaced the serving utensil. Ethan pretended not to notice when she turned around, wiping her mouth with a napkin. Mr. Reyes, she called, making him look up. Tomorrow's staff meal. I'd like to see your menu proposal by 9 a.m. Confused, Ethan nodded. Yes, chef. As she walked away, he couldn't help but wonder what had changed her mind. Whatever it was, he'd take the small victory. After all, cooking was the one thing he knew he did well, even if Chef Olivia Bennett needed convincing. Simmering curiosity, Olivia Bennett. Couldn't understand why she'd approved Ethan's staff meal proposal for the entire week. His menu featured dishes she would normally consider too rustic for Seaside Heights: pancit noodles, lumpia spring rolls, and something called care that he described as oxtail stew with peanut sauce. Yet she found herself lingering in the kitchen during staff meal preparations, ostensibly to oversee quality control. The sauce needs to simmer longer, she commented, peering into a pot of rich, fragrant stew. Ethan nodded, unfazed by her hovering. My grandmother would let it cook for hours. The longer it simmers, the more the flavors develop. Your grandmother taught you to cook? Olivia asked, surprising herself with the personal question. After my wife died 3 years ago, I moved in with her temporarily. Miguel was only 4 then. His hands never stopped moving as he spoke, deftly cutting vegetables with practiced precision. She showed me all the recipes I'd need to give him a taste of his heritage. Olivia nodded, momentarily speechless. She hadn't expected such a straightforward answer or the pang of empathy it stirred. The next afternoon, Olivia was reviewing menu plans in her office when commotion outside drew her attention. Through the window, she spotted Ethan in the resort's garden, crouched beside a small boy with the same warm brown eyes and gentle smile. Miguel, she presumed. She watched as they carefully examined the herb garden, Ethan pointing out different plants while the boy nodded eagerly. When Miguel plucked a leaf of basil and crushed it between his fingers, his expression of wonder at the released aroma made Olivia smile involuntarily. Later, she found herself walking past the kitchen's rear entrance just as Ethan was showing Miguel how to fold dough for dessert empanadas. "The key is gentle hands," Ethan was saying. "Not too much pressure." "Like when you taught me to hold the baby birds that fell from their nest?" Miguel asked, his small fingers mimicking his father's technique. "Exactly like that. Cooking is taking care of things." Olivia stepped back, feeling like an intruder on something intimate. That night she pulled out her old recipe journal, unused for years, and flipped through the early pages. Simple dishes she'd created before culinary school, before Michelin stars became her obsession. Dishes that had brought her joy once. The next morning she arrived at the kitchen earlier than usual. Ethan was already there, prepping for breakfast service. "Chef Bennett," he acknowledged with a nod. "Your son seems interested in cooking," she said, arranging her knives on her station. Ethan looked up, surprise evident on his face. "You saw Miguel?" "Briefly. Yesterday in the garden." She hesitated. "The staff have been talking about your empanadas. I thought perhaps we could feature a refined version as an amuse-bouche for tonight's dinner. A Filipino-inspired dish on the seaside menu?" His eyebrows raised. "A collaboration," Olivia clarified, maintaining her professional tone despite the unusual offer. "Your flavor profile, my presentation techniques." Ethan studied her for a moment as if trying to determine her motives. "I'd be honored, chef." As they worked side by side that morning, Olivia found herself asking more questions about his techniques, his ingredients. Each answer revealed not just culinary knowledge, but glimpses of a life built around family and tradition, concepts that had faded from her own existence years ago. The empanadas they created together received more compliments than any dish she'd featured that season. Watching guests' reactions, Olivia realized she was seeing something she'd forgotten in her pursuit of perfection. Genuine pleasure in food that told a story. "A pinch of connection, Dad. Can Ms. Olivia come to our picnic too?" Miguel's question hung in the air of the resort kitchen where Ethan and Olivia were experimenting with a fusion dessert. Ubi cheesecake with calamansi glaze. Ethan shot his son an alarmed look. Miguel had been spending afternoons at the resort after school, homework spread across an empty prep table while Ethan worked. Somehow, over the past week, Olivia had started helping with his math problems. "Miguel, Chef Bennett is very busy running this kitchen," Ethan began. "Actually," Olivia interjected, piping a perfect rosette of ubi cream. "What picnic are we discussing? Saturday at Lighthouse Point?" Miguel's eyes lit up. "Dad's making pancit and bringing his special mango juice, and I'm in charge of cookies." Olivia glanced at Ethan, who looked both embarrassed and resigned. "It's just a small thing. The restaurant staff and their families. Very casual." Casual sounds. Olivia searched for the right word. Refreshing, which is how Olivia Bennett, whose idea of relaxation typically involves studying competitor menus and practicing knife skills, found herself sitting on a checkered blanket watching Miguel chase seagulls along the shoreline. "He has your energy," she observed, accepting a glass of the promised mango juice from Ethan. "And your fearlessness with flavors," Ethan laughed. "You should have seen his experimental peanut butter and pickle sandwiches phase. Actually, the acidity of pickles could balance the fat content of peanut butter quite well." She paused, seeing his amused expression. "What? Nothing, just, you analyze everything like a chef." "That's what I am," Olivia replied. But the words felt hollow as Miguel ran up with a perfectly formed seashell, presenting it to her with the same pride he'd shown when mastering fractions. Later, as families packed up their belongings, Miguel fell asleep against Ethan's shoulder. Olivia found herself walking alongside them toward the parking lot. "You know," she said quietly, "I've been thinking about your grandmother's techniques. The slow cooking, the patience. It's the opposite of everything trendy in modern cuisine. And yet your food makes people feel something. Mine gets photographed, but yours gets remembered." The admission cost her something, pride perhaps, but Ethan's appreciative glance made it worthwhile. "I have an idea," he said as they reached his car. The resort's community dinner next week. What if instead of your usual tasting menu, we created something together? Your technique, my heart. Olivia should have dismissed the suggestion immediately. The community dinner was attended by local business leaders, potential clients for private events. But watching him gently secure Miguel in the back seat, she found herself nodding. One condition, she countered. You let me come to your restaurant tomorrow. See how you work in your own space. The next evening, Olivia stepped into Pamilia Kitchen, the modest restaurant Ethan had opened after his wife's passing. The walls displayed family photographs alongside Filipino proverbs. Regular customers greeted Ethan by name, and several nodded knowingly when they spotted Olivia. In his own kitchen, Ethan moved with a confidence she hadn't seen at the resort. He guided her hands as they prepared his grandmother's kinilaw, a ceviche-like dish with ginger and coconut milk. The acid cooks the fish, he explained, his fingers briefly overlapping hers, but the coconut milk softens the bite. It's all about balance. As she tasted their creation, Olivia realized with startling clarity that it wasn't just her approach to cooking that was changing. Something fundamental was shifting inside her, a warming like butter softening in morning sunlight, making room for new possibilities. Stirring complications, the Coastal Culinary Showcase was the region's most prestigious food event, drawing renowned chefs and influential critics from across the country. When Seaside Heights was invited to participate, Olivia immediately knew what would set their entry apart: the Filipino fusion menu she and Ethan had perfected for the community dinner. This could put Seaside on the national culinary map, Olivia explained as they prepared test dishes in the resort kitchen. Miguel sat nearby, carefully folding napkins into cranes for the evening service. What Olivia didn't mention was the call she'd received from Dominic Hargrove, her former mentor and one of the competition judges. His influence had launched her career a decade ago. Olivia, darling, he'd drawled over the phone. I hear you're exploring ethnic cuisine. The pause before ethnic made her stomach tighten. Bold choice. The judges adore innovation from established chefs. Your innovation, specifically. Later that week, Dominic arrived at Seaside for a private tasting. His silver hair and crisp suit projected the authority that had intimidated Olivia since her apprenticeship. The kare-kare spheres with peanut foam are divine, he pronounced, dabbing his lips. Your technique has evolved beautifully. Actually, the flavor profile is Ethan's family recipe, Olivia corrected. I just modernized the presentation. Dominic's expression cooled. A consultation, then? A collaboration. We're entering the showcase together. Dominic set down his fork with precision. Olivia, be practical. You've spent 15 years building your reputation. Sharing credit with a home cook dilutes your brand. He leaned forward. The showcase winner gets featured in Culinary Quarterly. I happen to know they're considering you for next month's cover. Solo. The magazine cover had been Olivia's dream since culinary school. She felt herself wavering. Consider it, Dominic advised. Submit the dishes with your name alone. List him as kitchen support. That's how legacies are built. That evening, the showcase application sat open on Olivia's laptop. Her cursor hovered over the entry form where head chef required only one name. She had typed her own. What Olivia didn't realize was that Miguel had forgotten his favorite action figure in the kitchen. When Ethan returned to retrieve it, he glimpsed Dominic and Olivia through the office window hunched over paperwork. Through the partially open door, he heard enough. So our collaboration was just research for your competition entry. Ethan's voice startled Olivia as she left her office. She turned, seeing him holding the toy dinosaur, his expression unreadable. Ethan, it's complicated. It's actually very simple, he replied, his usual warmth absent. I shared my family's recipes, my wife's legacy for our son, because I thought you respected them. Respected me? I do, Olivia insisted. Dominic suggested. Chef Bennett. Ethan interrupted, reverting to formality. I finish my contract here tomorrow. The staff meal will be prepared by 11 a.m. as usual. After that, I'll return to my restaurant, where cooking isn't about magazine covers or impressing critics. It's about feeding people food that means something. He walked away, leaving Olivia clutching a competition form that suddenly felt worthless. The next morning, Ethan's station remained empty. A text message informed her he'd called in sick, his first absence. But Olivia knew better. The sickness wasn't physical. It was the broken trust between them. The perfect blend 3 days before the Coastal Culinary Showcase, Olivia stood in Pamelia Kitchen's doorway. The small restaurant was bustling with dinner service, Ethan moving efficiently between the kitchen and dining area. He froze when he spotted her. "We're fully booked tonight," he said, neither welcoming nor dismissive. Olivia nodded. "I'm not here for dinner." She held out a folder. "I brought you the competition forms. Both our names are listed as co-creators." Surprise flickered across his face, but he made no move to take the papers. "Dominic won't be pleased. Dominic doesn't decide what matters to me anymore." She set the folder on the counter. "I also withdrew the magazine cover consideration." A server called Ethan's name, and he turned briefly to address a question before facing Olivia again. "Why?" "Because I've spent years cooking food that photographs beautifully but doesn't tell a story. Doesn't connect people." She glanced around the restaurant where families shared dishes and conversation flowed freely. "Your cooking reminded me why I started this journey." Ethan's expression softened slightly, but before he could respond, a small voice called out, "Ms. Olivia?" Miguel darted between tables, stopping just short of hugging her. "Did you come to taste Dad's new dessert? It has purple yams and ice cream." Ethan sighed. "Miguel, Chef Bennett is probably busy." "Actually," Olivia interrupted, "I'd love to try it. If that's okay." The tension in Ethan's shoulders eased fractionally. One dessert coming up. The showcase auditorium buzzed with anticipation as renowned chefs presented elaborate creations to the judges. When Olivia and Ethan's turn came, they stepped forward together. "Today we present Memories of Home," Olivia announced, unveiling their dishes, traditional Filipino flavors transformed through modern techniques while preserving their essence. Dominic's frown deepened as she continued. "This menu represents not just a fusion of cuisines but of perspectives. Ethan Reyes taught me that true innovation comes not from erasing tradition, but from honoring it." As judges sampled their food, Olivia found herself watching not their reactions, but Ethan's face, the pride and passion that had drawn her to him from the moment she'd truly tasted his cooking. Later, as they accepted the runner-up award, Dominic's influence ensuring they wouldn't win first place, Ethan leaned closer. "You didn't have to share the credit." "Yes, I did," Olivia replied. "The best recipes can't be created alone." On a sun-dappled morning 6 months later, Olivia stood in Pamelia Kitchen, now expanded to include a small chef's table where she offered tasting menus twice weekly. The wall of family photos had grown to include new images. Miguel showing Olivia how to fly a kite. Ethan and Olivia at the beach, the three of them laughing in flour-dusted aprons. "Too much basil?" Ethan asked, appearing beside her as she adjusted a sauce. "Perfect balance," she replied, accepting the gentle kiss he pressed to her temple. At a nearby table, Miguel was carefully writing out menu cards in his improving handwriting. The header read, "Pamelia and Bennett, where tradition meets tomorrow." Outside, customers were already lining up, not for awards or acclaim, but for food made with something no culinary school could teach, the perfect blend of technique and heart, of past and future, of 3 lives becoming one family.